Okay, people, we're back. Video 2. It's been a minute, so hopefully I remember where I left off. Shouldn't be a problem. I mentioned in the last video I have a little checklist I'm working off of here, so we should be okay. But just as a reminder of what we've done so far, we're working on an exercise tracker. We've got our nav bar here, which is sort of a header component that's on every page. We've got this is a footer component that's on every page. So far, we only have 2 pages, the home page and the about page. You notice when I go to the about page, this stuff in the middle changes, and the header and the footer are the same. That's because, like we said, they're on every page. We talked about in the last video. So that's all we have so far. But the next thing we're going to do is go into making a CRUD functionality. Just as a reminder or a quick explanation, CRUD is an acronym for create, read, update, and delete. These are basic things that you can do to a database, right? You can create items, you can read the items, meaning get them from the database, you can update the items, or you can delete the items. There's obviously more things you can do, but these are the basic functionality of databases. So that's what we're going to do here. So we're going to hop right into it. We are going to, let's see, I have the server running, so let's close that. We're going to do a Rails command. We're going to G, which you may recall stands for generate. We're going to do a scaffold. Scaffold meaning it's going to build a bunch of stuff for us. All these CRUD commands, all these, it's going to create the views, it's going to create the controller, it's going to build this whole like mini framework of stuff for us. So that's the scaffold means. Then we give it the name. What is it? It's basically like a table in the database, right? So there are tables going to be exercises. And then you're going to get basically, the next things we're going to put in this command are basically the columns, right? So the first thing is going to be, what is it? An exercise, basically the name of the exercise that we're doing, and that's going to be a string. So you give it the name of the column and the type of, right? So we wanted to do a couple things here. The duration. How long did our exercise last? If it was something like running or some aerobic kind of thing, right? So that's going to be an integer. We're going to have, maybe we can have the reps, which would also be a number, so it's integer. And we will have the date that we did the exercise, which is the type of date. So that's all we need to do for that. Those, like I said, those are basically, you know, this is Rails saying, hey, do something with Rails. What are we going to do with Rails? We're going to generate something. What are we generating? A scaffold. Okay, so what are we scaffolding here? We're scaffolding the exercises table. Okay, what are the columns in our exercise table? The exercise itself, how long did it last? How many reps we do? And when did it happen? So we're going to hit enter to run that. It takes a second. You may recall that whenever we do anything with a database in Rails, first it makes a migration, which is basically like a to-do list for, you know, the database, for the Rails command to tell the database what changes it's going to make. And then, so first we create the migration, then we run the migration. It's always a 2-step process. So in a second here, I'm going to do the command. Before we move on to that, just take a quick look at all this stuff it made for us. First of all, it made this migration like I was just talking about. We're going to run that in a second. And it made all this other stuff, right? It created all these views. It created a controller, all kinds of stuff. So before we do anything, like I said, we need to do Rails db:/migrate. Basically tells the database, hey, we just made this scaffold of stuff. You better be prepared for it to be coming. So it sets that table up for us. And it'll think about that for a moment. And then when that's done, we will restart the server, saying Rails S. Okay, it's going to do that. So as a reminder, we have our home page and our about page. Now, this is going to be over, well, that just failed probably because the server's still restarting. Hopefully that failed just because the server's restarting. Yes, okay, so that's back. Okay, cool. So it's going to be, what did we call exercises, right? So it's going to be /exercises. And look at that. There it is, a new page for us. So let's add an exercise. First of all, note their header is still here and our footer is still here because, like we said, they are on every page. So let's add an exercise. How about we do sit-ups? Sit-ups. How many sit-ups can I do? Not many. Well, duration. How long did it take me to do? For, let's say 5 minutes. I could probably do, 5 sit-ups. No, it's not really that bad, but who likes doing sit-ups anyway? So you give it a date. Look at that. We just by calling it a date in that scaffolding command, it gave us this cool date picker. Right? This is how easy is this? Right? This is great. So create the exercise. There it is. Exercise was successfully created. I'll bump the size of this up for you guys a little bit too. There's the things. There are our columns, basically, right? We can edit this exercise. We can say, okay, I got a little better. It didn't take me 5 minutes anymore. We're going to update the exercise, and there it is. Exercise was successfully updated. Back to exercises, which is the whole list of all the exercises, right? So far, we only have one exercise, so let's do a new exercise. We can do pull-ups. Same thing. I'm not too good at pull-ups, so it's going to be a low number. Create exercise. Exercise successfully created. Back to the exercise list. Now we have a list of exercises. Obviously, this looks not so hot, but we're worried about the functionality here. We'll come to the getting our little Bootstrap on here and making it look a little better in a little bit. So just real quick, what did it do for us? Do I not have my VS Code open? That's odd. So let's do this. I must have shut my code editor off for some reason. Start that back up while we look at this. So what are some things that it did for us in here in the app, in the views, right? Look at all this. So this is all those. We were already looking at those. So the index is the show all the exercises. The edit is obviously the editing page. The form is as a partial. You may notice, remember this is the underscore means is a partial. That's because the form is basically the same on the edit and the create page probably. Show is the show one exercise, and the new is create a new one, which has that form in it. Okay, so it made all that stuff for us. It made something in here in roots. So you notice this is where we did our little roots here by ourselves, and looks a little different because this is from the scaffolding. This is saying like, hey, I made all these myself. Rails is saying, not me. Rails is saying, hey, I made all these. I know where they are. I've got them stored over here somewhere. I'll take care of that. Don't worry about it. We're not going to spell it all out here. But, it knows because it made them, right? What else did it make for us? It made us a controller over here. So that scaffolding thing did a whole bunch of stuff for us. So that's basically that. One thing that's missing, and there's no way to get to this right now without manually typing that URL, right? Because we only have these two, home page and the about page, right? The home and the about. So we would have to do, have to type it in manually to get there. So that'll be the next thing we do is add it to the nav bar. As an exercise, maybe I'm going to turn this video off for a second. See if you remember, figure out how to do it yourself. We talked about in the last video about getting this guy in here. So see if you remember how to do it. And if not, that'll be the first thing I do in the next video. Okay? Okie doke. We'll see you in the next one.